Hey guys, welcome to today's video on how I prepared myself for a healthy relationship, which of course led to marriage. So if you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Elika. I'm an energy strategist and a trusted advisor for purpose-driven leaders who want to create such an impact in the world. And you know that your energy is going to be really important in order for you to do that. So if you like the sound of that, then what are you waiting for? Make sure that you subscribe so that you can always be on top of all of the shares that I have and wisdom on this particular topic of human energy. And since I had, I think now over 1,000 likes and all the comments on my Instagram post about me getting married, it clearly made sense today to really share this deep and personal part of my life. And so many of us know that there's the things that people see and there's all the work that you do in the background that they don't see. It's like the swan on the lake, but the legs are just like running tirelessly to get moving. And we all know the iceberg analogy. So this video is not just for somebody that is trying to attract a relationship. It's also for those that are in a relationship, are married, as well as feeling like they want to draw towards themselves the right types of habits and behaviors, either in a new relationship or in their existing. And I just think it's important to say, I say this not as somebody that claims to be the be all and expert in relationships, but knowing that I also did have a marriage previously to this new marriage and an 18-year relationship. And if I'm honest with you, that was my biggest preparation for now. So having come from what I think is a successful relationship despite ending in divorce to entering a new season of my life with so much wisdom and preparation for the next, um, there's just so much in here that I would love you to have insights to help elevate you in this beautiful area of your life, which is about deep and meaningful relationships or intimate connections. So I think that, you know, if you're somebody that is already at that stage where you understand that if I have success, but I don't have it with the person that I want to partner with in life, then it feels like something is missing. Then you're probably where I was feeling and why I decided that, you know, last year was the true year where I was like, okay, this is now the priority of my energy. And if you've watched some of my videos before, you'll know that I'm very much one of working with the different pillars of your life and knowing which one is going to get your energy at which time. And my 4 pillars, if you haven't seen in my energy reset framework, I have a roadmap that has these 4 pillars, particularly that I focus on. And that is nutrition through heritage eating, movement, which is energy moving through the body, purpose and relationships, which is self, is huge, and the mind and self care, which covers all the nervous system and sleep regulation. So this clearly falls under the purpose and relationships, and you probably can sense already that there may be a reason why I intertwine those two. So there are 3 things that I definitely want to talk to you about today. So I want to first talk about how I had to prepare myself to attract this relationship. And honestly, for me, that is really about what I have to shift in my own energy. So the big thing that I had to shift in my energy was really linked to survival. So linked to this primitive part of ourselves that feels like if we don't take care of ourselves through certain actions. So for mine, it was the way that I worked, um, that we wouldn't be able to do anything else. We wouldn't be able to survive. I mean, it's very subconscious, this, isn't it? It's not, you're not literally thinking, oh my God, I can't survive. But what you are doing is intentionally putting your energy into things like overworking, exercise, you know, just things that are also important in your life, but you're doing it and not realizing that things that are around you are crumbling as a result. So, how did this look like for me? Well, in my early years, it looked like building my career and uh, feeling like everything that was important was about how I built my success professionally. And what that meant was in my early management days, I wasn't empathetic to the people that I managed. I couldn't understand why they didn't have the same drive and motivation as me, why they couldn't work just longer hours or harder to get what they needed to get done, because I was prepared to do anything, which was predominantly work hard, to achieve what the environment I was in deemed a success. And so I generally had this running theme through the back of my mind, which was that other people were lazy. And of course, life kept on showing me experiences where other people were not working hard as me, but they were having a lot of success. And this pattern was just reoccurring throughout my early professional career. And then, it came to the point where my first burnout essentially led me to running my own business. And in my own business, then it became super clear that I could take responsibility for some of these patterns, because there was no boss, there was no colleague that was trying to sabotage me in this career rat race of the corporate world. There was just me, and I got to separate what was familiar and similar and what I had control of in order to change. And so, in that, there was still more sabotage for me in my personal relationships, because I just felt it really hard to delegate and to trust and to receive support. So, in that breakdown, what was really beautiful was learning how to receive support, learning how to get guidance, um, allow myself to be vulnerable and share and be in tune first with my emotions and share with others what that feeling was and how they could support me through it. And so I would ask anyone in this situation to firstly, and what let's just define what the situation is. The situation is you are letting go of the old you, because there is something about the current part of you that is not an energetic match to the desire that you actually have, and that's why the desire hasn't fully manifested. So my old me of survival mode was, as I said, focusing and prioritizing my professional career over everything else. So when you are in this kind of mode, you want to ask yourself, what is it that I truly need to let go of? And you need to really ponder around the things that are just getting in the way and that are distractions from you, that are clearly showing up in patterns that you've seen in different environments with different people, that are tend to be linked to this part of you that feels like they need to survive, this part of you that doesn't trust that if you have this, then you can still keep this. So this is going to be uniquely different to every single person. Obviously, the clients that I'm working with, this is my work, is obviously to identify what that is for them and to work with it with them. But if you're trying to do this work alone, you really want to first assess what is it that you need to let go of that is a very much a survival pattern. So the second thing I want to talk to you about is how I became an energetic match. So there's a lot of talk in the relationship manifestation and coaching world around manifesting the one. And I was very fortunate to go really deep in a lot of the work here. I know I did some hypnotherapy. I know I followed deeply work around becoming a reciprocal for the love that I desired. And I know that I had deep coaching around my own way of co-relating with others. And when my first marriage broke down, I was very fortunate to have an awareness of my own personal growth journey then. And I truly wanted to make sure that the ending of that relationship was done in a very conscious way. So some of you may be familiar with consciously uncoupling, which was a process that was made famous by Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin's separation, where they used a counsellor. And she wrote a famous book called Consciously Uncoupling, which I highly recommend. And I went through that process. So that meant I was doing deep, deep work to know what were the things that I needed to know about myself in order to not take previous bad habits into a new relationship. And then became, I think, the expansion work, which this expansion work is the key part to then being able to attract once you've, done step one, which is decide what you need to let go of. And this expansion work for me was about creating my own love list, the list of the qualities that I really felt was what my soul needs in order to be consciously connected to somebody else. And luckily, I had a lot of experience, right? I had an 18-year relationship behind me that had started on the age of 17. So I had grown through different parts of who I was as a woman in so many different seasons of my life. So I had a lot of reflections that, of course, I had done as part of my separation. So that made it really clear to me qualities that become really important. And here's what I want you to know. My love list was not anything to do with height, anything to do with um, nationality, although I did have some preferences. I thought I was going to marry an Italian. Um, and, there were some things that, of course, I truly desired. At one point, I remember how much I thought I needed a spiritual man. And if you've ever dated and thought that you wanted something, and then that very thing shows up, and you're like, I actually don't need that. And, that's really a beautiful part of the growth journey, is to attract many, many teachers. And this is what I teach all my clients that are trying to attract new relationships. You will have many, many teachers, and each teacher is here to teach you a lesson. And as soon as you have absorbed that lesson, you will get a new teacher. And so I quickly learned that I didn't need a spiritual guy, or what I perceived was spiritual. And so this love list became a lot about core values and how I could feel with this person because of these qualities. So I can talk you through what they were for me. So they were about having somebody that was trustworthy. I knew I could trust them because I knew that I needed this really deep friendship where I could really confide in someone. I'm such a truth teller. I just say things how they are. So I needed that. I also needed loyalty in um, the Chinese way of thinking, I suppose. I'm the dog, so the dogs are very loyal. Aries, as in my astrology sign, Aries tend to be very loyal. This is not always the case. People have to do their own inner work to be the most expanded version of themselves. But these qualities, I knew for me, I am going to be someone that needs a monogamous relationship. I need loyalty. I need to be the center of your universe. That is just how I am. Um, so yeah, so loyalty it was the second quality. The third one was integrity. Definitely through my experience, especially of dating, I realized that I just did not do well when people would not do things that they say they were going to do. I hold myself to a high level of integrity when I say I'm going to do something. Now, I do know that there are qualities in me that sometimes I desire certain things, and then I have to identify I'm not showing those behaviors, and then when I reflect, I'm not showing that thing that I'm not behaving in that way that I say is important. But integrity for me is really when you absolutely say you're going to do something and you hold yourself to it. And so I definitely learned through my dating experience that was something that was showing up that was just really dysregulating for me. So integrity became a very important value. A really big value for me was growth mindset. I am somebody that is always evolving, always looking for more, always questioning, always challenging, always reflecting. Definitely too much. Definitely, I exhaust myself with my level of ability and desire to just grow and expand in all areas. But that's who I am. And I would never be comfortable with the person that is content to live in the same village that they grew up in, that they were born in, that they grew up in, and spent the whole time there, and not want to see other parts of the world, or experience different cultures, or just have that diversity in within even what they eat, never mind who they are with. So these are all like things like even adventure, languages, the food that you eat, the diversity of your friendships. For me, it's all because when a person is growth minded, they're so curious about life that they have a lot of diversity in everything, their thoughts, their places, their connections. It's just a side effect. And so growth mindset is so important to me. And lastly, it was health. And health to me was not like, oh, I need a six-pack guy, or um, actually my partner was not in the best shape when I got with him. But I knew that his priority was actually health. And health to me is not just about physical health, it's about mental health, emotional health, spiritual health. And so I was really I was really making sure that this person understood that health was going to be something that was going to be important to them, because that was something that was attractive to me. So these became really key qualities on my love list. And, I had all the desires. But again, a key part of this for me was having essentials and having desirables and separating the two. So when you have this, you really go out there and you just expose yourself to life. And, I'm not going to go into all of the ways that I did dating here, but we can maybe do that on another video. But um, also my dating involved variety. So I was not like, oh no, dating apps, you're not supposed to, I shouldn't go on them. All dating apps are crap. No, I was like, dating apps is one source and there are many sources. And so I had that growth mindset in where this person would come from. But the most important was I just did what brought me joy. And what brought me joy was hanging out in beautiful cafes that were predominantly in nature, eating my whole foods, because I love being healthy and I love nature. Obviously, nature was a desire of mine. Well, it wasn't an essential, but thank God my partner loves nature. And I think actually nature probably fell under healthy, because actually it's very hard to have truly healthy people and then not enjoy nature. I just don't, actually, I just don't think that's even possible. So yeah, I did salsa, so that's something that brings me joy. I love exercising, which, I predominantly exercise not in gyms but in my home environment, so that is always one. But long walks is a place where I would meet people, because I love walking. I go to conferences because I love to learn and grow and expand, so that was obviously one. Retreat. I love travel, so travel and adventure is a great way to meet people. So you see, just by living my own life in the way that brings me joy, this to me set me up to be an energetic match for that person. And then having a love list so I could assess anyone that I connected with. Do they display these qualities? Do I feel these qualities within them? And that to me is then the point where you put yourself out there, you have this list. And if you're in a relationship, yes, you're not necessarily putting yourself out there in the same way to attract a new person. But what you are doing is, in your existing relationships, you are still doing those things that bring you joy, so that you can bring that person to match your frequency. And then for me, it was assessing, am I, and this is a very important part, but am I the reciprocal for this list? So am I showing up as a trustworthy person? Am I showing up as loyal? Am I showing up with integrity? Am I showing up with a growth mindset and curious? And am I showing up healthy? And I also realized I needed to do some more work in that. So trustworthy, absolutely. Loyal. Well, I kept on dancing with this, because I knew that ultimately I was looking for a long-term, meaningful connection that was going to end in marriage. So that meant loyalty for me was not casual dating with someone that just wanted to see how it was going to go. Yeah, we wanted to see how it was going to go, but we still desired a committed relationship. Um, and so loyalty, I had to be clear on what loyalty looked like for me, so that I could communicate that in an honest way and show up with integrity for myself to that. And yeah, when you say to people that you are dating for marriage, that doesn't suit everybody. So that's also okay. So again, that's the integrity piece for me. When I looked at health, I did feel that there were areas that I could definitely still optimize, both in my mind and my belief systems, which I wanted to be super healthy about men and my relationship with men and my previous experience. But also in my physical body, I felt like that in my physical body, I could optimize a little bit. And then I think that when it came to a growth mindset, that's when it's like you start seeing and meeting people, and this may be in your existing relationship, and you know that they've got this quality that you desire, but they also have something else that you're not sure if you desire that. And it's about being curious as to, is this something that I can live with? Is this something that I can accept in this person? Can I therefore have a growth mindset to this? And there were many qualities about my partner that weren't my desires. They weren't on my desirable list, but in looking at all the other qualities that were my essentials and him meeting those allowed me to say, yeah, I can grow and allow myself to be okay with this. So essentially, that second part of being a magnet comes from that first part of what you are willing to let go of. Now, I want to move into this third element that was essential, of course. And this third essential was obviously when I attracted my partner, I didn't look at marriage as the goal. Of course, it was a journey that marriage was going to be a ceiling of this intention of my energy of a relationship. But I knew that having a growth mindset, that being in the relationship would bring up so many things of that in which I needed to grow. And it did. And luckily, a lot of those things came up very early on. And that meant we had a lot of challenges very early on. And, just to give you a feel for it, I met my partner, and within 3 months we were engaged, and then married within 9 months. So we had to ensure that we both didn't look at things in a linear fashion and look at time, but the depth that we were going into each other, the vulnerability, the questions of curiosity about what the other's desires were had to be met immediately. And, I can just think of our first date, and our first date was a discussion about values, and it was really deep. And I walked away from my first date, and Matt had wrote me a poem about how he had heard me, and it was called Elika, I Hear You. And he'd wrote back in summary all the things that he'd understood from what I said to him. And this to me just showed that level of growth mindset and depth that I was looking for very early on. And of course, me being ultra curious, I only went deeper with that. And you get lots of advice about not being the Spanish Inquisition in a date, and I totally agree. It needs to be fun, it needs to be playful, but it's just my personality to be so inquisitive anyway. So we explored each other very deep, very early on. And what I would say is that this phase then is something that I learned very quickly, which is the phase of maintenance. So now that I'm married and in this relationship, every day I see that my love list is the things that I need to hold myself accountable. How do I hold myself accountable in loyalty? How do I still hold myself accountable in trust? And funny enough, trust came up the other day because I was speaking to him about an area that we thought was challenging between us and what we were going to do about it. And he asked me that, make sure that I don't bring this up in a conflict later on or anything like that. And I realized that this was again another test of trust. And so the test of trust comes with, are you willing to show this person that you can trust them even when you've got the deepest commitment to them? And so again, I'm tested on my health. Am I going to make us healthy as a relationship? I'm tested on our integrity towards each other, and obviously within myself. So these initial values that I looked for are exactly what gets tested every day. So I hope you have found this really useful. There are 3 very clear steps that I've guided you through. One was really about what I'm willing to let go of that's from survival mode. The second one was being an energetic match and creating my love list so that I could make sure that I was that reciprocal. And the last was, how do I maintain these qualities? And I share this with you whether you're in a relationship or whether you want to attract someone, because you want to have that success in all areas of your life. So if this has given you value, give it a like. And if you feel that there's somebody in your life that could benefit, share it with them. And I always say that the best way to get deeper insights is on my newsletter. I'm more vulnerable there. I share everything about my energy audit. So you'll see the details that you could subscribe in the description box below. And I've enjoyed this, so I'll see you on the next one. Take care.